Oh, this is part 25. The FZR Restoration. Every morning when I come out and swap the battery chargers around, I just look at this and I try to envision what it's going to look like with all its new paintwork. It really has been quite an adventure so far. We're making progress every day, and we hope you enjoy sharing every day that we spend on this project. We do a little work every day and we try to share it on YouTube. Now we have 1,300 videos out there. A lot of them are related to restoring motorcycles, painting wheels, polishing engines, doing various things to work on motorcycles you might not find anywhere else. Now the biggest challenge of this whole job, I haven't even started yet, and that is coming up with a paint job, and I've made some little sketches. But coming up with a paint job that's very retro. It's not from the era that the FZR is, but I want to make it a unique, one-of-a-kind paint scheme, but something that Yamaha might have made, but very rare, and we'll have the only one. And we're not far from the time when we're going to start custom designing the paint job. I already have some ideas in my mind how I want it to be. Most of the people that do this kind of work, well, they have a vision in their mind, they do sketches, everybody does it just a little bit differently. And for me, every one of these motorcycles I've got my heart and soul in, and first of all, the paint work, the repairs, maintaining them, and we do get to ride them very, very often in the summer, every day, and in this time of the year, several times a week, as the weather permits. And for people who don't know, it's about 5 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, we got this bike very inexpensively. Luciano found it on the internet, and we went and got it, and ever since then it's been a great adventure. And this is the second time it's being restored. The first time we tried doing it very quick and dirty like a track bike. This time we're going to try to do it like a show bike. But designing up these custom paint jobs, it's of no value if you don't start with some really nice bodywork, and that's where we are right now. Trying to get a great substrate on everything before we actually lay out all the striping and the decaling and the parts that make it a one-of-a-kind motorcycle. And that may sound easy to do until you actually go to do it. And the saying I like is, everybody's a great parent until they have children. And what I've been doing every day a little bit at the end of the day to finish up the day, I've been coming out here and trying to get the engine area, the engine bay, all of these areas here as clean as possible while we have all the fairings off the bike. Karen's got the coffee on. It's breakfast time. It's in the mid-30s now, so it's going to be a little difficult to work outside for another half an hour till it gets up to about 40. So every morning here, when I get in out of the shop and I try to plan out the day's work, what's happened to today, it started off looking like a day I could be outside, but what's happened is I was going to try to, my first thing I wanted to do today, I wanted to take the paint off some of these parts with the sanding discs, but it's really gotten so breezy out there, that's going to be difficult. The parts are going to be blowing around, so I'm looking around at what I can do to use the day efficiently, and I thought, well, the first thing I can do, I can get the paint off of this and get all the repair work done. This looks like it might, you think this is going to be real easy until you start to do it. There's going to be a lot of work to fix this. I need to fill these holes in. I need to clean, we got the alignment on this, I did all the tweaking, I have the alignment on this. But then stripping off the paint, maybe even getting it sanded and primed. I don't think we're going to be able to prime out there with the weather the way it is. And all the epoxy from the previous day is drying up here. That'll be ready to sand. I always like to let it dry 24 hours. Just makes it a little bit easier to clean up, and that part will be ready. We have one done, one to go. Once we get the other one done, then it'll be, I hope I can get a day to do it outside, because the dust is astronomical if I do it with sanding discs. But that's one of the reasons I like to work like this, because every day is a challenge, every day is a reward. Every day I get something done that I didn't know in the beginning of the day was going to happen. And today is no different, and the weather probably will change 3 times by lunchtime. Anyway, time to get going. The first step before I work on any project, this is simple green, and I've been using that Harbor Freight stuff It's even stronger at degreasing. The reason is I don't want to get the grease on my hands. I'll change the gloves when we go to get the paint off of this. But what will happen is if I don't do this, that grease winds up working its way down into the finish, and somewhere in the far off future there'll be a nice big fisheye somewhere. So it's always best, in my opinion, to just start every restoration thing, everything you do, with getting as much of the grease off as possible. Now, one of the reasons this part didn't fit, this is not an AirTech part. This is a part that comes from Yamaha, I guess from Yamaha. It looks like it's made out of the material that the side pieces are made out of on stock motorcycles, but you can see it's burned through. It needed bracketing. It's burned through here. We're going to do all of that repair today. And maybe there'll be some information there, something that you can use in the future, because a lot of times when you damage these old parts, what really happens is you go on eBay to find them, or wherever, the dealer. In this case, it's almost a 30-year-old bike, so not going to be a lot of parts in the dealer bin. And what happens, you find it on eBay, you buy it, and it's worse than the one that you already have. So a small part like this, I can use the paint remover on. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. The problem with all of this, and any way you remove the paint, it's going to be labor intensive. If I sand this, the wind is howling. It's like in the last hour, it's just become like a hurricane out there. So one day we have rain, one day we have wind, but I've been just vacuuming up the shop 10 times a day whenever I have to. Now I'll put this on, I'll let this sit for 5-10 minutes. There'll be some sanding involved in this, but this will get some of it off. And I never want to start these parts. I try never to take the cheap way out, like when you flip a bike and just put the finish over the old finish. Now you see, this is not the right way to put the paint more on. You're supposed to go in one direction, but we don't have all the choices on a lot of these old jobs. So this will get the paint off. This will get a lot of it off. The final amount I'll sand off, and then I'll show the way I would repair that, which, again, I don't see a lot of this stuff on YouTube about how to work with CA. Very, very limited. In fact, I might have the only one out there. I don't know. We'll just let that sit. Give it 10 minutes or so to finish usually some of it. Well, let's just do a little test. Let's see if we're... Yeah, a lot of it will come off. And sometimes you have to give it a third and a fourth application. But what this will be is, this will save me from having a lot of sanding dust in the shop. That's for sure. And if I have to do it 2 or 3 times, no big deal. Now, one of the things that works from time to time and gets some of this off is once the paint is soft, these are old Brillos, old SOSs. They'll tend to get a lot of it off too. Well, I was really looking forward to working outside today, but it's, again, every day is a challenge. There's never a day you wake up and you have all the choices. Now, obviously, if you're like the guy on Bitchin' Rides, you have a beautiful shop, a spray booth, you got people doing this kind of work. Yeah, your whole life changes. But when you're the one-horse band, and the only thing that's different is, and I know people don't believe this, but until they see it, but you can have that shop and that $1,000 spray gun, and you can have all people working for you and everything, but the quality of your work, if you do it all yourself, it's probably going to be better. And I would tend to say I'll take my finishes. Anybody that ever paid to have a bike painted, I'll take them. And the fact that we've never lost a bike show, and we have the trophies to prove it, right on the wall over there. Boy, are we on an ego trip today, wow. The next step is to get the power sander and get this area flat. I've gotten some of the material off the back because this is where we're going to have to do the repair. You can see the exhaust was burning there. I have to grind this away, so we're down to raw plastic. This needs to be hand sanded with some 400 sandpaper. and we'll be ready to do the repair. Now with this part sanded and cleaned up, the back one is not visible. I just wanted to rough it out. But here's the thing I need to do, is I need to make this piece flat. So what I need to do, and this is a good way to do it, I got rid of, with sandpaper, got rid of all of the extra gobbledygook and everything that's there. Now I'm going to make a pattern. This is a piece of 16th plywood. It's a model airplane supply that you can buy in any hobby shop if you were not a modeler. But anyway, I'm going to use this to make a pattern. And that's as much as I need. So let me go over to the saw and cut that out. So now we're using thick CA. And what I want to do is, this is going to be my reference point. In fact, now I see it's going to go over there far enough. I need to trim this corner off. What I want to do is I want to put some CA on this. So now the next step on this is to put some thin CA into both of these areas. I need to make a little piece for the back of this, just to keep the Bondo in place. It keeps it from chunking out. So I'll do exactly what I did here, behind each one of these with a little piece of 64th plywood. Just be a very convenient way to do it. And once this is all sealed in with thin CA, we'll be ready to put a little Bondo on that. Now, as much as I'm not a Bondo lover, this is one case I think we can use it to our advantage. This is really no stress here, that's the main thing. This is not a part that's going to take up a lot of... We're not bolting the exhaust system to it or something. But anyway, I will give this some time to dry, and I'll take a little coffee break. Now while that Bondo's drying, and believe me, I'm not a Bondo lover, I've said that before. That's going to dry 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to have a coffee break, and I had something I wanted to explain to some of our new people that have subscribed recently. Now, I looked this morning and we had over 4,200 subscribers, so I know a lot of these people that enjoy watching these things be repaired and restored. They may not realize I didn't have a background in body shop work. I learned all of the stuff that I'm sharing on these videos from designing and building model planes. These are all relatively complex things to do, and the finish on them is award-winning in every possible way. But by doing this, and of course this is the part that hurts, a lot of these planes I've crashed and had to learn how to fix them, and how to match the paint, and how to use CA. And I say, I haven't seen a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I've looked at a lot of YouTube, believe me, that shows how to use CA to do body work. I might be the only one out there. I don't know, maybe there's some others. It's not a contest anyway. But all of these models have carbon fiber parts. I've made most of the propellers, if not all of them, especially the 5-bladed ones. The Tiger Cat model, the black one here, is molded carbon fiber. The fuselage is molded. Now, a lot of that information for people that are interested in that type of stuff, and we always stumble upon people that are modelers. Well, the interesting part of it is that Paul Taylor has put on and I don't know if there's 700 or 800 or 1,000 videos from my 52-year modeling career. But that's how I learned to do this stuff, and I'm happy to pass it on. I hope some of it is of benefit to you. And anybody visits my shop, I always give them a little tour. We call this the Spitfire bedroom. It's in the attic of my house. It's one of the hobbies a 52-year career in model aviation, and all the competitions I was involved in, and all the friends I made. And I'll use a sanding block. There'll be quite a bit of hand sanding of this part, some 400 grit, and it'll be ready to prime. I hope you enjoyed that little visit to my model airplane collection. The planes again, it was a big part of my life. The planes I designed and flew over many years. But basically, modeling is about friends and the friends you make along the way. I guess, in a way, motorcycling is like that too. I guess life is like that. Anyway, we're going to do a final hand sanding on this. You can see how that part has filled in nicely, and we'll be ready for a coat of primer if the wind stops blowing. I just looked outside. The wind is howling. We're going to try to get this in primer anyway today. That'll be a big step. There's just no substitute for having good weather, or a spray booth, or a lot of money, or being young. Yep, but you got to go to war with the army you have. And the army I have is what I put on these videos. That's my army. A lot of work, not much money, and a lot of fun, and good friends. And coming up soon, not going to be long now, we're going to be working on Turbo Steve's bike. He's got all the body work done, and he's ready for some paint work. I'm sure he's got his paint job designed up and the whole 9 yards. If you look at the trees blowing, oh my God. Leaves are falling, trees are blowing down. We just want to get a coat of primer on this. Wow, big storm coming. I had illusions of going for a ride this afternoon, that's gone. I want to get maybe 2 or 3 coats of primer on, about 20 minutes apart, let it dry. Wet sand it out. Now between coats, and again I like to leave about 20 minutes between coats, primer, that'll sit up by a heating vent, and believe me, the heat is on today. We're not even up over 40 degrees and that wind is just blowing. Looks like a storm is coming in. Now in those 20-minute windows between coats, what I thought I'd do, this is the epoxy that we put on the day before. Kind of a reinforcement, and some of these areas you look in and you do see this. Even though it's going to be painted flat black, I'd like to have it as smooth as possible, even up here. And I also, on purpose now, see, I did not drill the holes. So the first thing I want to do on this part is I want to burn through with the Dremel tool, not drill, burn through with the Dremel tool, get all the holes in place. Next step, I just did a rough sanding on this, and I wanted to get a quick coat of primer on that, put it out in the garage to dry while we have this windy day. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get any accurate painting, but I'm just getting that cleaned up, and that'll mean I don't have to prime that when I flip it over and work on the other side. It'll just make it a little bit easier. Now the purpose of this, just to see where this might need a little more work. Now we'll let that dry here overnight before I bring it into the house and put it up by a heating vent. Simple reason, we're going to have company this afternoon. And Karen doesn't want the house smelling like primer or Bondo. Well, That's about as good as it gets. That is better than a factory new part. And cheaper. And of course that's going to dry out here overnight, but that's about as good as it gets. I'm real happy the way that worked out. And that'll be just one more part of the puzzle of the FZR restoration. Another part of the puzzle. And when we're done, trust me, I brag about this all the time, this will have a finish on it like no other. And I'm glad I got to show my competition models from years ago. Almost every one of them won a lot of awards for finishing, and that's how I learned to do this stuff. Thought you might be interested in knowing. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and we got more stuff coming, and thanks for watching.